I think in the future, we're really going to be much smaller and okay with it in terms of community. So having more intentional communities that are potentially not millions and millions of followers and not having that be the gold standard of like what a community is. So having maybe the more closed buyer groups or closed communities when it comes to brand accounts, or just having that smaller circle with better, more informed, more thoughtful and more curated content through what it could be the executives, the CEOs, those influencers, those employees. So I think there's that aspect. I also think there's a analog aspect to everything that we've talked about. So like getting those communities, like not just online, but like offline too. I think we're going to see now that we're like a good 6 years out of the COVID haze and all of that, like we're already seeing it, like more experiential activities and events happening, not just like the Zoom event, like I can't go to anymore. Even if they're amazing, like I'm just never gonna do that. But having those experiences super curated, being informed by social conversations of what your people want to actually see.
Hello, and welcome back to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Josh, and I'm here with my co-host, Ross. And today our guest is Jacqui Morgan. Hey, Jacqui, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Well, thanks.
All right, Jacqui, so as we dive in here, can you just kick us off with a brief overview of who you are and what your backstory is?
I am Jacqui. I am an award-winning social media director and brand strategist operating primarily in B2B tech. My backstory is long and storied, but I actually started my career in entertainment and fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. So I had like basically another life before I entered the B2B life, which has actually been really, really helpful in my journey and in storytelling and in social media, because a lot of us in B2B, which we'll talk about, don't really know how to tell stories and don't really know how to be creative. But my origin story of, literally Victoria's Secret runway shows and making sure that models had what they needed backstage and working with designers and hair experts and makeup artists really showed me how to, bring in that consumer element and that creative element into what I do today.
Oh, that's super cool. So as you touched on, most B2B companies aren't really all that phenomenal at telling stories. And I think you could make the argument that most treat social media just like a distribution channel rather than something they have a set strategy for. In your experience, what changes when a company starts treating their social media as a storytelling channel that is actually being used to connect with people versus just like, oh, we got to tick a box?
Like, I think that's also like towards the end of the journey, by the way. Like, there are a lot of brands out there doing social very, very well, and a lot of brands who are, like you said, checking a box. And you can tell, right? I am a firm believer that social is a business driver and not just a support function. And I think there is a dated view and conception of social being just like, we've all heard that story of like, oh, the intern does it. No, the intern does not do it, especially for like very large corporations. Very skilled professional people with years and years of experience are doing this channel. So what changes when leadership finally understands that? Everything. So, I'm a firm believer, right? Like I can go and look at a brand's social presence and know that it's a dumping ground, or it's not resourced properly. Or unfortunately the social lead might not be given the reins to say no to things. Because there's just like a lot of things happening on the channel that either aren't social first or optimized for social, or people just simply don't care about it. And then it's just like, what's the point, right? It's like you're putting content there just because someone asked you for it. So someone could, like you said, check their box or take a screenshot and put it in their PowerPoint or put it in their QBR. Or they treat it like a billboard. So it's just like, it's just there, right? You drive by it, you see it, you don't measure any ROI from it.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of places I've run social programs for Fortune 500 companies. I've also been on the agency side too. So leading very large brands from an agency perspective as well as an in-house one. And like I said, I can see when it's not being invested in. And to me, that just seems like a total strategic miss because, it's 2026. Social media is the front page of your brand, whether you like it or not. So, right, like there's no reason to not make it work hard for you. And so when you are able to lean in and tell strategic stories and just lean into storytelling, creative, different types of formats, adding value, teaching your audience different things, then you're going to see it pay off tenfold. And so, yes, what changes when a brand starts to inherit a storytelling approach and a more creative and social first approach? Not only does the content get better, not only does the engagement get better, not only does your audience grow, but you will see those lower funnel metrics start to follow eventually that your executives care about. So one thing that I really enjoyed when I was running running the social program for a very, very large Fortune 500 brand with millions and millions and millions of followers was I'd always get the question, right? Like, okay, but like, why should I care? Right? It's social media. Maybe they don't understand right off the bat. So as, a director in social, part of my job is to really educate leaders who truly don't understand that while showing them the things that they care about. So while we can't necessarily in SaaS or, longer sales cycles in B2B attribute pipeline or revenue to organic social programs yet, what we can do is work with our, paid teams to ensure that we're supporting them in retargeting, or we're influencing their MQLs or their leads with organic content. And then you can see cost per lead, like actual dollar amounts decrease, right? When you have a strong social presence. So, you know, it's so in the world of AI too, and like performance marketing and like all of these deep metrics that you are able to get your hands on. And like, it's still like it's almost like a soft skill. You can't ignore it. It's the top of the funnel. Like you simply cannot ignore it, because if you do, then like, how do you think you're going to get deeper?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thinking about how to communicate that to executives and in the language or the metrics that they understand seems super important. Are there elements that like consumer brands have figured out that you feel like B2B brands like still struggle with or misunderstand in the world of social?
Totally. I mean, I think consumer brands totally understood first that we're marketing to other humans. And I think the easy answer there too is that like, oh, they're not boring because they're consumer. Like they don't have to be boring. It's like, yeah, of course. Like consumers and right where I came from in my early career was, like I said, fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. And like, obviously that's not boring. But I think at the end of the day, it's not even about being boring. It's about understanding that who you're selling to is a human being who has all the facets of emotions and all the facets of being a human. And when you scroll on social media, you're not just competing against other B2B brands or your competitors. You're competing against those consumer brands. You're competing against cats. You're competing against their parents, their friends, kids, weddings, right? It's not just your other competitors and B2B brands. And I think there is this misconception, and I do think it's changing. Like I do think there's a lot of really good B2B brands out there that are leaning into creativity because we're finally starting to get this. And I think that's us millennials are finally in charge of those budgets. So that's why. But I think it's really relevant because in a world where, it's B2B, it's business, it's boring. It's like, yeah, okay, that's great and everything. But like, again, we're marketing to humans. Like we're like another business truly is not buying what you are selling. A human on that buying committee is buying what you are selling. And if you make an emotional connection with that person, they will remember you and you will come up in a purchasing decision.
When you look at a company's social media, what are the signals that they actually understand their audience? And what are some signals that make you think they don't?
That's a good question. I think, when I initially look at a brand's page or pages, what I like to see is the content type. Like, it's true, content is king, content will always be king. But I think there's a way to see if the brand is creating content for themselves or for their audience. And if they're creating content for themselves, what I mean by that is that they're just talking about themselves. A lot of B2B social programs get lost in this trap because, again, if it's a not as experienced or a large of a social program, or it's just not funded properly, it like I said before, it can be a dumping ground. And so in that case, it becomes a broadcast channel and a distribution channel, full stop. And so you're talking about like, we just launched this thing. Here's our new widget. Read our white paper. Like it's just another marketing channel that is just like screaming into the void. So that's the first red flag. And then from there, other indicators will follow. So typically when you see a brand like doing that, And by the way, no knock on those social teams. They're probably doing the most with the littlest resources. Um, but when you do see those, you'll see very quickly like lower engagement, potentially like maybe lower reach, no comments, right? Like people are just like kind of scrolling past this. Nothing about it is what we call in the industry thumb stopping, right? But when I see brands that are creating content for their audience, then it looks completely different. Not only from like an actual visual standpoint, but from like a total vibe standpoint. And I know like I believe that vibes should be a social metric, but whatever. So what that means is, the content is speaking to the audience directly, right? It's solving a problem that they are facing. It is addressing a need. It is educational. There are shares associated with the content. I think a big thing that we're seeing in social overall is that like those top line vanity metrics are not it anymore. You can optimize for likes, but why? Likes don't pay the bills. So if something has like a lot of likes, that's great. But I actually look at like how many saves and shares and sends something has, because then the audience is saying, oh my God, like that's me. Or, oh my God, I know someone who has this problem. Or one of my coworkers has to see this. It's like when you send like your work best friends like memes at midnight because it's like, oh my God, this is us, LOL, right? Um, so I look at those kinds of deeper engagements, and those are not going to follow marketing conversations. Those are not going to follow, hey, look at my new product, right? They are truly going to be audience first. And then that tells me that the brand is creating content for the actual audience, not for themselves. And those are the brands that get it and the ones that are moving the needle.
You kind of touched on this with like measuring success within social, but I'm curious, there's always this tension between brand building activities and then like demand gen or performance marketing activities. Like where do you see social fitting into that? You talked about the challenge of attributing social leads, but how do you think about where it fits in there?
I love this question because I don't think that there's a wrong answer. But I think there's a righter answer. So for the programs I run and the programs that I've seen be the most successful, I believe that organic social and like even the boosting portion and function of a organic program is in brand building, right? There are a lot of conversations out there and algorithm updates that indicate that, right? Like it's no longer just talking to your followers, right? TikTok, we've seen the For You page killed the follower, right? You don't have to be following someone to see their content anymore. And in fact, other platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok especially, are optimizing by topic and content type. So now if you sign up net new to Instagram today, I know because I just started another account for another brand. So if you sign up for Instagram today, you are given content buckets to choose from of what you are interested in. Like the chronological algorithm is over, right? Like so I think the biggest thing there is the chronological algorithm is dead. So with that, you actually have a bigger opportunity to reach more people and build your brand from an organic social program than say, 5-10 years ago, even though organic reach is lower, even though it's a little bit more pay to play. So if you know how to play the game and actually create content that gives value, is shareable, and actually optimizes for things like shares and sends and dwell time and all those things we've talked about, then you're actually building your top of funnel in a way bigger and better and more strategic way than you probably have ever before on a social platform. So that's why I believe it's in brand building. And I also think too, like, a first touch, a second touch from a brand is not necessarily going to, infiltrate any lower funnel buying decisions. It takes about 10 to 12 to 18 touches, right, for anything like that to even get to happen. But LinkedIn, especially in B2B, is absolutely one of them, if not 5 of them, right? So, and this is not just like a post, right? This is a brand showing, maybe there's a launch or maybe there's something that's happening on the brand side, but then maybe the CEO will follow up and say, take his perspective or her perspective on the launch. Employee shares. Employees will then, and so you have this ecosystem of like not just the brand, but the employees and the founders or the CEOs all having the same conversation. You extrapolate that from the followers to the networks to other people that they're connected to, and you can't not have a strong brand presence. And so the reason why I said it's not a wrong, there's no technical wrong answer is because in any social program I run, that is a given. Like that is what happens. We are all moving in the same direction. And then because of that, you are able to engage retargeting, boosting, retargeting, demand gen, and then looking at the learnings and seeing like, hey, this piece of creative that went live on organic slayed. Like people love it. The comments are deep. The shares are wild. Can we optimize it for paid? Can we optimize it for demand? And can we actually run something on demand? So it's not like they're not mutually exclusive, but it does belong very much top of funnel. And I think it's one of those things that I know it's hard sometimes to convince stakeholders to invest, but when they do invest, I promise it returns dividends.
Mm-hmm.
It's like brand. If you can right, it's the same story that people have with like some CEOs have with brand, right? Like it's the same conversation.
Yeah, hard to measure, but hugely impactful. And
Yeah, and especially in today's day and age too. Like I don't know any like all the things I'm seeing, all the things we just watched a couple months ago at the Super Bowl, like we're brand building. We're not talking about like, book a demo. It's almost like we have to slow down. We have to, it's so cliche to say, but truly like we have to all slow down to truly speed up.
So one of the biggest trends that we're seeing right now play out, and it's been like this for a couple years, is the rise of the B2B influencer. And it's well documented that people would rather buy from individuals and brands, and they trust individuals more than brands. Why do you think that is? And did you see that trend coming?
Yes, I believe it. And yes, I did see it coming. I think I just read a stat. I think it was it might have been from LinkedIn itself, but it was like 87% of buyers are more likely to trust a human than a brand. And I think there's a lot of different things happening right now to make that a reality. Number one, like brand trust overall is kind of eroding in the world in the age of AI, right? Like things are being generated by AI, not only like the actual selling materials and content, but ads, right? There's a lot of AI slop out there. And I'm not trying to knock AI. I love AI. Like AI is part of she's my best friend and my worst nightmare, but I love her. But right, that is a reality that we are in. And it is something we are all going to face or are facing in our jobs right now. So I think like, brand trust is a little wary right now because of that. So when you have a face and a human, it's just extrapolated from, the old saying basically that like people don't trust brands, they trust other humans. That is just, we are just living that reality like tenfold now. And so I think, it is so interesting to me how it has flipped because before brands would have much rather preferred that their employees or other people in their industries kind of be quiet and like let the brand handle it. And now you're seeing brands that are truly leaning in hard to employee advocacy because they know that their people who are connected to other people have a inherently bigger reach for similar content than their brand pages. In fact, it's like even like it's like 2 to 4x more impact on the same content if an employee shares it than a brand. So there's a lot of brands out there I'm seeing really leaning into employee advocacy. And it also shows, it also giving people what they want to share is important. But going back to like the actual influencer part, I think it is so interesting. And yes, I saw it coming because we are in this age too of there's so much information. We have no lack of information. But what we do have is a lack of trust and a lack of strategy almost. So learning from people, understanding like their stories and where they come from, and again, feeling seen in the content helps everyone involved, not only your employees, but like the brand. I work with a lot of influencers. I have made some really good like strong friendships from these influencer partnerships, and I can tell you that, you know, when you find the right one that is relevant to your brand, that can become an ambassador, that is not just like a, you know, buy this because of, I said so. Like those mega crazy influencer brands are no longer the way, I would say. It truly is finding brands that speak to your audience, that your audience already knows and trusts, by the way, and that are relevant to your brand and are not working with a competitor and are brand safe and know their stuff, it is tenfold more impressive and impactful than saying it yourself. Because it's also that third party validation. So yeah, I think the rise of the B2B influencer is well timed. It also kind of like combats some of that older thinking that like social media is a place where like marketing goes to die, right? Because it's not. It's now like like everything is social. Social is the future. Heard it here first.
Right. So I'm curious, like, to double click right on something you said there. I'm gonna go. It seems like we're kind of past the point of like the mega influencer. So what I'm inferring from what you're saying is that it's more the era of like the micro influencer, and it's potentially a season where if you want to really reach people, and if you want the contact, or the content to be authentic and the connection to be authentic, you might be better off getting a bunch of micro influencers together, getting their different audiences up to date on what a company's doing and to influence them. Is that the case? And if so, who are some of your favorite people to work with?
We've tested in a bunch of different roles I've tested influencers from all spectrums, right? But yes, I think like, and when I say mega influencer, I truly mean like celebrity, right? So like celebrity influencer, like, that has a place. That's not really what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking truly like what you mentioned, kind of that more micro. And micro can be anything from 5 to 500,000, depending on your brand or depending on your space. And so I like to actually do a kind of a mix of like micro and a little bit micro and like kind of more the major ones to kind of cast a wider net, but less about followers too, and less about like the categorization of micro or not, is truly like their audience, right? And their engagement. And if you're working with any influencers that are worth their salt, they will give you insight into their audience demographics. Um, I pulled my personal demographics recently, and 92% of my followers are B2B decision makers. And my engagement rate is over 8% on this is my personal LinkedIn.
Wow.
Thanks. But right, so like those to me, like I would much rather work with someone who has like 5,000 followers and those kinds of numbers than someone who maybe has like 12,000 or 15 or 40,000 followers, but not any decision makers or 1% engagement rate, right? So it really is like figuring out what's right for you and right for your brand and right for the moment in time. And then in terms of some of my favorite influencers, I have worked with so many. I have a few aspirational ones I want to work with. Um, but yeah, if they're pretty niche, so I won't drop any of their names now. But if anyone wants to know, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll send them your way. Like we're talking very niche, but like very impactful.
I'm curious when you're talking about just individuals in general, not necessarily influencers, but like employees and individuals within a company. How do you think about strategy and narrative around that? Because it sounds like you're advocating for not just a brand broadcasting approach that has to be true engagement with an audience, but also how do you keep that on the rails or just on message to make sure that you're getting where you want to go, and then or is it just a totally organic kind of open process?
For the employee portion, especially when a company has like hundreds or thousands of employees, there has to be process in place and there has to be tools in place. Um, I have seen, at smaller companies too, like it doesn't necessarily like like slacking everyone, like, hey, can you guys post this? Like that doesn't work. Like nobody does. Or they say, yeah, maybe later. But one thing that we've seen at some of the larger companies I've been at is, putting together, there are true like employee advocacy tools out there. And they make it really easy to not only upload the information, but to get like your personal account, attached to it. So it's like three clicks. And when that becomes scalable, it's great because then, people will do it, but you have to incentivize them too for adoption, right? Like, what is my incentive as, Joe Schmo or, John Doe at a company to go share about the company I work at? Like, truly what is my incentive? And so when I was most recently, running this program, I looked at the entire ecosystem of what we were asking employees to share. And I asked my team, I was like, why? Like, would you guys post this? Like on your personal brand? Because to me, my personal brand and my LinkedIn, that is like that is sacred space. Like if it doesn't like vibe for me, I'm not going to post it. And now, so why wouldn't everyone feel that way? And even if they don't, why not? So I asked my team, like, would you guys post this? Does it sound human? Does it sound like something that excites an employee? And if the answer is no, then like it doesn't ship, right? And it's a similar vibe we kind of took to like growing our brand accounts too. So we have this like holistic view of how to approach content overall. And then in order to get to that, yes, we truly treated employee advocacy like a brand channel, custom custom strategy, custom content, custom creative, I voices, right? Not we or the company. And adoption and engagement skyrocketed. Um, I was also in the process, and we are, currently in the process at other places I'm helping out, like, putting in custom GBTs that are in brand guidelines or in tone of voice guidelines that employees be like, I'm not really vibing with the copy that's in here, but like I can go to the custom GBT for this, X brand and say what I want to say. Can you pull something out for me? Um, so yeah, there's a lot of ways to engage your employees and make them the advocates and the ambassadors that they want to be. And when people feel engaged and then people are proud of the work they're doing and you are making it easy for them and like really good for them, then they're going to share.
That's a thoughtful approach. That's cool.
The platforms that we're using, they're changing constantly,
Constantly.
right? Constantly. The platforms itself, right? The platform of choice changes from time to time. It's wild that TikTok became like a B2B content channel over the years. And if you look at LinkedIn right now, it's very different than what it was like 3 years ago and 5 years ago. Even I remember when I first started using LinkedIn, it was like it's only for announcing you got a new job, right? And I think every couple of months, like people start talking about the algo changing and this isn't working anymore. This is working. These types of posts work. These don't. You got to get this number of comments in the first X minutes or else something's not going to go. Like there's always this noise about what's going to work. And it's almost like we take a how do we hack it approach to storytelling. All that aside, like what are the principles of social storytelling that stay true regardless of what's working with the algorithm or what actual channel you're using?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, right? Like if you are chasing the algorithm, if you are only relying on trends or trending audio or like copying what other people are doing, like that's never going to work. I think it's true for social as it is for being a human. Like you have to tell real stories that connect to people, that are also rooted in originality. And I know that's kind of vague and a little hard to maybe quantify with like a brand strategy, but if you remove the noise, right? Take it as an input in terms of like, okay, I understand that LinkedIn like is now prioritizing dwell time, not just like quippy little copy. Like use that as an input to inform what you're doing, but also like say something real and say something true, and then everything else will follow. If you're not doing that, if you're just like I said, posting trends or like just doing the very, very least, that's not going to move any needle. And I think at the end of the day too, the brands that are doing this really, really well, they understand that. Their executives understand that. And their people understand that, because when you have all of these different elements to tell your brand story or to announce what's happening at your company moving as one, then you're getting these different perspectives that all support that overall narrative that help move the story forward. And then when you are in the demand gen cycle or getting those lower funnel attribution metrics that your bosses might care about, then having that top of funnel awareness and narrative already established We'll make it easier to book that demo. We'll make it easier to book that meeting or download the white paper or all of those things that we want to capture all of this attention. And truly, like if you stopped looking at your competitors for like a month, just stopped like comparing. And if you stopped like listening to the trends and just created something that you know your audience cares about, like I promise you it'll do well. But you have to do that in an informed way. And there are ways to do that, right? Like either social listening or other research. But like tapping or like even like customer interviews, right? Interviewing your sales team, your BDRs, like what are they seeing in the wild? What are your customers truly saying? What pain points can you solve? What Reddit threads can you go scrape and put into ChatGPT and say like, what are my customers facing? If you did that, focused on that, you will be successful.
Curious, you mentioned earlier starting a new Instagram account for a brand, but kind of walk us through, like, not to put them on blast, but like for a brand that's starting out in social media, if they're basically at square one, what's kind of what would be your approach in the first 30, 60, 90 days to start making an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I've had a lot of opportunity to do this. My claim to fame is I started a very famous model's Instagram account. She's very famous. But now I saw her on the red carpet at the Oscars the other night and I was like, okay, what's up, girl? Anyway, so I think starting off is hard and it's scary. But it's also necessary. And the brand and what I started yesterday was a sub account. So it's already, it's established, doesn't matter though. Same principles apply. But I think in the first 30, 60, 90, right, it's like identify what you're trying to do or who you're trying to be, right? What do you want to be known for? And it's the same thing as influencers, truly, because again, like whenever I start a new social brand or whenever I come in and consult about these kinds of things, we just talked about how people trust people, right? Not brands. And so it's like almost taking that like human approach to this brand building. I asked my influencers, what do they want to be known for? I asked the same thing of the brand. So we can kind of answer those fundamental questions in those first 90 days, understand what they want to say, who they want to be known for, what their end all be all goals are. And if their goals are sales right off the bat, like red flag, right? So we'll pull it back a little bit. But once we kind of have that framework, then we get into like those content pillars, kind of like the really block and tackle, hardworking content development that goes into this job. So those content pillars, tone of voice, brand guidelines, like those things that we absolutely want to make sure that we are getting really strong. We are getting a good, strong foundation on in the beginning. So when we do create, it can scale very, very quickly. And then there's no day but today, right? Like start creating. I think some of the biggest pitfalls I've seen is that like people wait till they're ready. And I think like when you're ready, you're almost like too late. You kind of just have to jump in, start, see what works, see what doesn't, fail upward, fail fast, and then pivot or keep going. Not everything is going to be amazing. Not everything is going to go viral, which is fine, by the way. I have a whole like thesis about going viral. But that's okay. Again, like you don't need everyone to see your content. You don't need everyone to love you. You just need the right people at the right time to know you and to love you. And yeah, it's like just social is basically being a human.
On that note, kind of the biggest trend right now you're seeing on LinkedIn is the rise of or our new phase of CEOs and executives really trying to carry the mantle of becoming the face of the company. I think that has to do with people trusting the corporations less and less and realizing like, oh, we need a human being that people can kind of relate to, right? Now, in some of this content and with some of these founders or executives, it works really well. Like there's some amazing people out there that just crush, and then there's people that try and it comes across as forced or it comes across as inauthentic. What do you think separates the two?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I think truly again, it's like it's what we've been talking about. It's investment and it's time. Like, you can see a knee-jerk reaction of a founder or a CEO of like, I need to be more visible on social. They'll go to ChatGPT, they'll go to Claude, and they'll say like, hey, like write me my LinkedIn calendar. And they'll just post it. That is not the way. And that's the quickest train to the most inauthentic brand. So, we have these AI tools to our disposal and they're amazing. Like truly they are incredible to be a force multiplier for all of us marketers, especially when it comes to these kinds of things. But if you do not do it truly yourself or your team does not support you to do it yourself, then it will always fall into the realm of kind of that more AI generated, not authentic conversation and slop. And so I think, the companies and the brands and the CEOs doing the real work and doing it really, really well set up themselves and their teams to help them be successful in this. They're open. They listen to the social team or their executive communications team. They are the first ones to say, like, yeah, sure, I'll be in that video. Like we don't even have to go into it, but the whole McDonald's burger thing is like hilarious and like a masterclass in like so many what not to do and what to do things. I can't even tell you. But truly like that, see, I'm like at the end for what it's worth, I'm so proud of him for saying yes. Like, yes, that was caught up in so many approvals and like, was it a joke on all of us? We're all still talking about it. So maybe it worked. But he said yes. He said yes to that. And even though, again, that approval chain killed the authentic part of like what that probably was supposed to be, he still said yes. Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I think truly again, it's like it's what we've been talking about. It's investment and it's time. Like, you can see a knee-jerk reaction of a founder or a CEO of like, I need to be more visible on social. They'll go to ChatGPT, they'll go to Claude, and they'll say like, hey, like write me my LinkedIn calendar, and they'll just post it. That is not the way. And that's the quickest train to the most inauthentic brand. So, we have these AI tools to our disposal and they're amazing. Like truly they are incredible to be a force multiplier for all of us marketers, especially when it comes to these kinds of things. But if you do not do it truly yourself or your team does not support you to do it yourself, then it will always fall into the realm of kind of that more AI generated, not authentic conversation and slop. And so I think, the companies and the brands and the CEOs doing the real work and doing it really, really well set up themselves and their teams to help them be successful in this. They're open. They listen to the social team or their executive communications team. They're the first ones to say, like, yeah, sure, I'll be in that video. Like we don't even have to go into it, but the whole McDonald's burger thing is like hilarious and like a masterclass in like so many what not to do and what to do things. I can't even tell you. But truly like that, see, I'm like at the end for what it's worth, I'm so proud of him for saying yes. Like, yes, that was caught up in so many approvals and like, was it a joke on all of us? We're all still talking about it. So maybe it worked. But he said yes. He said yes to that. And even though, again, that approval chain killed the authentic part of like what that probably was supposed to be, he still said yes to that video. So yeah, so I think it's like, having the CEOs who care, who want to do it themselves, who invest in their team, who have the right people in place that they know will get them there versus just like throwing in AI generated stuff to like because they think they have to. Those are the ones that win and those are the ones that are going to differentiate themselves. And especially with founder-led brands or especially in like very regulated industries that like have very much trust as like the center of it, they need CEOs like this because if there is ever an issue, God forbid, having a human to even like pick up the phone is a selling and a differentiator, right? Like a faceless corporation is not going to pick up the phone. But if you feel like you have a relationship with the CEO, or if you even better do, then that's even, that helps tenfold than just like what we've seen happen in the past.
Yeah. I mean, as a just quick aside, like I remember that video when it first came out, the McDonald's CEO, and then obviously there were all the copycats, but I live right down the street from McDonald's. I don't ever go there. I try to eat pretty healthy. Every once in a while I'll get McDonald's, you know. But like I was like, I gotta try this burger now. Like this burger that like he was calling, well, I just remember the product, right? I was like, I gotta try this product out. And actually it's pretty good. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's pretty good. And I don't know. I mean, I think he kind of is more self-aware than people give him credit for. I think he gets it. He's kind of like, I think he gets it. He's kind of uptight and he's kind of like got this old money, a little awkward vibe to him, but he totally uses that self-awareness to his advantage, and almost like he doesn't get it. And it's like he almost it's almost as if like the joke's on him, but like he's actually in on
Or
it.
he's actually in on it. Yeah.
That's, I think, why it works so well.
I agree. And I think too, like, I don't know if you guys saw any of the reactive social that the team, by the way, the McDonald's social team is like iconic.
They crush, yeah.
So how they crush every day. And so some of the best reactive social I saw came out of that. Cause as soon as I saw that, I was like firing up LinkedIn and I was like, this is a masterclass and like what not to do. And then I like took a beat and I was like, wait a minute, like it's a week later. There's all these reaction videos. All these other CEOs are getting in on it. Burger King was hilarious and like a total challenger in the best way, but like we're still talking about it. And so then McDonald's came out with their like huge, like 4x5, the whatever it is, the big, it's like not the Big Mac, but you know what I mean. And just above it, the tweet said something like, try our new product. And I was just like, chef's kiss. Like, that is beautiful. And look, Josh, you went and you tried the new product. So like, Julie, after a day, I like took a moment, thank God, because I was like, I was going to rage post. But then I was like, wait, okay. So I actually think that they knew exactly what they were doing and it works. So chef's kiss.
There's some good sales attribution for social right there. Josh's burger
Go
stop.
to any. Yeah, heard it here first.
I think we've been talking about a lot of things that are kind of, or I think what you're advocating for is like a lot of timeless approaches to just like connecting with humans, which definitely like resonates with me, that ultimately the best storytelling and the best marketing is just authentic interaction and engagement. I'm curious though, how do you see that if you kind of fast forward like 3 to 5 years into the future, what trends do you see emerging? What do you see as being increasingly important for brands to get, specifically B2B brands?
I think in the future, I mean, it's hard to say. Like I'm worried, not worried, but like I think in the future we're really going to be much smaller and okay with it in terms of community. So having more intentional communities that are potentially not millions and millions of followers and not having that be the gold standard of like what a community is. So I think there's that. So having maybe the more closed buyer groups or closed communities when it comes to brand accounts, or just having that more, that smaller circle with better, more informed, more thoughtful and more curated content through what it could be, the executives, the CEOs, those influencers, those employees. So I think there's that aspect. I also think there's a analog aspect to everything that we've talked about. So like getting those communities like not just online, but like offline too. I think we're going to see now that we're like a good 6 years out of the COVID haze and all of that, like we're already seeing it, like more experiential activities and events happening, not just like the Zoom event. Like I can't like go to anymore. Like even if they're amazing, like I'm just never going to do that. But having those experiences super curated, being informed by social conversations of what your people want to actually see, being informed by those smaller communities of what your community or what they want to do. I think that's going to be a huge investment that if brands aren't already, they should be making. Because like it also like fosters those like true relationships. Like I do like, right. It's it's a vicious cycle. We're kind of going where the 90s are back. I like to say, I made the joke the other night, right? The 90s are back because like we're all wearing baggy jeans. There's a new scary movie coming out. We know we have ex-presidents testifying again, the same ones that testified in the 90s. And then like analog is back, right? So like the 90s are now coming back in full force, which is great. Big fan. So yeah, so I think like those are kind of the trends we'll be seeing, like, more curated, more analog. I think too, the going with those communities and like that smaller curation, I think too, like, I don't know how we measure this. And I know this has been talked about on social, especially in like the social director and like us more established social professionals on LinkedIn for a while now. But, the group chat and like having the conversations that like make it off the platform into those group chats. Again, I don't know how we measure this. Maybe it's just saves and shares and sends. But I think you're going to see more people making decisions based on the conversations they're having about you, not in places that you are.
I love that. A less but better approach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's solid. Jacqui, I unfortunately just noticed that we're right at time. And we need to get you out of here. But for people that want to find you online and learn more about you, where is the best place to do so?
Right now, feel free to go find me on LinkedIn, Jacqui Morgan, and it's spelled beautifully. So Jacqui Morgan.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jacqui.
Thank you guys. So fun.